Coffee and Pan Dulce. How's that? Coffee and Pan Dulce.
Bacon, and I'm a community advocate here in South Charlotte. If I had my buttons on today, it would be let's get some gun control. I'm tired of looking at the news and seeing this. Black Lives Matter in honor of our friend Joel, and let's have equal rights for everybody.
This is Gunn. I am a community advocate here in Charlotte, North Carolina for LGBT women's rights with the National Organization for Women, gun sense laws with Moms and Men Action, and anything that extends equity to all. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Christian Cano. You're the co-host. My buttons are Moms and Men Action, gun sense legislation, healthcare for all, Medicare for all, and also in my heart, Black Lives Matter on behalf of Joe Oldham, who's a guest of ours who passed away last year. That's it.
Good morning, everybody. It is Coffee and Pan Dulce time, and we are back. This is the first week of September, and we've got an action-packed show with about everybody's favorite group, and much, much more. So, good morning, Christian.
Good morning. Good morning. Happy September. So, summer's over. Well, yeah, it was a good summer. It was a long summer.
It was a very long summer. I felt like, personally, I've had to cover a lot of ground with what I do for work and all that, and it's just it's been an exhausting summer for me. Honestly, I'm gonna miss summertime because I miss being able to go swimming and being outdoors.
Yeah. And you've got a great pool where you're at, so
I know. When we shut the pool down in September. And swimming season's over, which I always close it before the cold weather gets here, like way before. Yeah. And so it's kind of sad because you could probably swim in Charlotte outdoors probably at least till the end of September, and they close it down.
At least, yeah.
They usually close it about the 10th. Like it's not too far out. Yeah, it's way too early. It's a chief complaint. I just know they don't want to pay for the chemicals and the upkeep.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I mean, as Jenny said, everyone, today, when you're watching this, it'll be September the 6th. So for those of us, I'm not looking at you, Jenny, for those of us who are excited about football season starting, the week that this drops, the NFL season is starting and college has started already. So welcome everyone. So welcome everyone to Coffee and Pan Dulce. I'm Christian Cano, one of your co-hosts, along with Jenny Gunn. Barb Bacon is doing one of her endless errands. She's in South Carolina somewhere. She's somewhere. She's doing something. So we want to thank everyone who joins us from Facebook Live, but also those who join us on YouTube and the thousands who listen to us on your favorite audio podcast platform. Really want to thank Brandon. Who was our guest last week?
We had Braxton Winston.
Braxton Winston. I don't want to call him Brandon. Braxton Winston, and then the gentleman from the AFL-CIO. It was a great show about labor. Yeah, Izzy. That's right. Yeah. Well, I want to thank both of them. I apologize, Braxton, for thinking you're Brandon. Anyway, we want to thank both of them for joining us last week. It was a great show about labor, and it was a wonderful show. Today's topic is our first show of the fall season, and it is a clickbait show if there ever was one. It is called Moms for Liberty's Lipstick Bigotry. So we'll be talking about Moms for Liberty, and because there were some really interesting articles that have been coming out about Moms for Liberty, especially from the Washington Post. They've been doing a lot of really in-depth stories about who they are, who's funding them. So this is a really important show. But before we do that, and we're also going to talk about a topic or something that leads into this, that Jenny, for those who follow us, know that Jenny has a show that comes on after this, but we actually tape it before this show. And there was a topic that she and I were talking about kind of off camera after her show that I think kind of blends into this one. Don't you think, Jen? And we're going to talk about that as well.
I mean, and we'll do a deep dive once we get into the topic. The Republicans have a method for their madness, and when we get into it, I'll explain why. Because I think groups like Moms for Liberty, they're not
ALEC, those other groups,
These aren't Moms for Liberty, the Proud Girls. Yeah, all these are created for intentionality because they similar with the Tea Party and they create the other iterations for a very specific reason. Just like they did during conservatives created the Red Scare committees and the search for communists and it's always been a constant thing. So this is nothing new for America. Is to create all these distraction arguments and debates to not expose conservatives on what they're really always doing, which is their long-term agendas of controlling the country and fascism makes its gains in this country, and then we push it back with different movements like the civil rights movement and all that. So to me, we ignore history so much that we repeat it in some form or fashion. And, we there's moments of clarity that we need to have and really decide if we really want to be a democracy or not. And,
all right. Well, that's one of the things we're going to be talking about. But before we do that, let's go into Barb's current events.
This is Barb's current events.
All right, so here we go. Barb's current events. There's three of them that kind of lead into this topic. The first one, sorry, Jen, I'm going to have to put my cheaters on. The very first one, there is a study by neuroscientists that came out last week, the week that you're watching this, last week, the week that we tape it, that talks about religious fundamentalism and how it's linked to damage in certain parts of the brain. That religious fundamentalism, they equate it to like a parasite. And certain people have a part of their brain that has a flaw that parasite attracts to. And those people tend to, and it's not just in America, those people tend to get trapped into believing or going along with religious fundamentalism because of that part of the brain is lacking something. So it's a very interesting article, and it talks about, they did this study about religious fundamentalism and how there are certain people that it attaches to their brain, they're more susceptible to cults, they're more susceptible to certain things. And it's a very interesting article that came out, and I thought it was like a wonderful article. I was like, oh my God, this is like what Jenny and I talk about all the time. But it's actually a scientific study that was being done, and they talk about that. Another one that I thought was very, very interesting, and Jenny, I'm not sure if you heard about this one, but the Washington Post did a story this last weekend, the weekend this is being taped, did a story. Moms for Liberty was in that story, and they talk about a secret phone call that revealed the Christian right's plan to take down the education system as we know it. And someone had actually taped this phone call about 4 years ago, and they released it. It got the reporters of the Washington Post got a hold of it, and they went and they specifically talk about how because the person who it's an attorney, and he's from Minnesota, and he was trying to start this movement. He was filing all of these lawsuits in Minnesota about book bans. And he was trying to get all these banned books because his goal was to stop secular education because he believed it was a threat to religion. And then it got caught on, and over the last year, anyway, that's a very interesting article. The next one is a study was released by the Family Research Council, which is that really fundamentalist anti-gay group. They released a study that said 1 in 6 churchgoers have had, are paid for, or encouraged abortion. So even in their study, 1 in 6, which I think is very low. Interestingly, Pew released a study that said 56% of Catholics believe that abortion should be legal. So those are very interesting. These are from their own people releasing these studies. And I don't know if they're doing this study to try to make it like zero. But anyway, so those are the 3 current events, Jen. I don't know if you have any comments on any of those 3.
Well, I mean, they're all kind of related because conservatives are always going to try to block access to things. Abortion, public education, books, whatever. It's the only, when you can choke off the access to things that should be just common knowledge and human rights oriented, you can control the population. Just like the theory, and I know the name always escapes me, but the theory of ruling people with an iron fist, you have to control food, sex, and many other basic things. And when you can block access to reproductive planning tools like contraception, when you can ban abortion, you strip away the person that can get pregnant. You can control them, because now you tell them what they can and cannot do with their body. And pregnancy greatly affects a woman's ability to access the economy, to have careers, to really live their life. And that's just with regular conditions. And we'll leave the low percentage things like rape and incest out of the subject, just so we don't muddy the waters. The same way with public education. People use religion to control this country. Christianity is a fascist movement. And it's part of one of the tools in our tool belt that uses some kind of fake morality to scare the shit out of people so they do what you want. And so one of the things is privatizing schools. If you privatize public education and it's run by mostly church nonprofits, 1, you're going to make a ton of money. 2, you're going to control the flow of information in this country. And when you can block access to libraries or just get rid of libraries, just find an excuse not to have independent libraries where people can just walk in and check out books, you've greatly hampered people's ability, especially younger people that are forming thought, and they're more susceptible to religion, or more susceptible to really bad ideas because they're uneducated. If you're an educated hillbilly, you're probably going to end up growing up and being a Republican. And you don't know why. You don't know why you're voting against your own interests. That's the thing, is that the regular baseline Republican voter is poor and not so smart. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because if you think about what you're voting against, nope, I don't want any government help, even though I'm getting government help. And I don't want any of that pesky socialism, even though they got 5 kids on food stamps and Medicaid.
Exactly.
And I don't want those other people. What for that? The people living in the cities that are making $100,000 a year. I'm like, no, boo. As a percentage, rural Americans are on government assistance way more than people.
Exactly. Yeah.
You can't live on public assistance and live in Charlotte, North Carolina. That's almost impossible.
Yeah.
So again, religion is because then they make everything a moral argument.
Yeah.
Because they're always in the morally correct place, according to them. Now, Christianity and morality have nothing to do with each other.
Sure.
Absolutely nothing. There's nothing moral about Christianity. It is a false pretense for controlling the society. So yeah, these Republican attorneys come up with these schemes because they stand to gain a lot of power. They also privatizing public education is the biggest money grab in American history. It'll be a massive you're talking about trillions of dollars and money.
So I agree with you, Jenny. I mean, they're all pretty much combined with the brain of fundamentalists, and they were very important with the study to say they're not necessarily talking about Christian fundamentalists only. They're also talking about Muslim fundamentalists, all kinds of fundamentalists in general. A suicide bomber's brain, something is wrong with that person's brain, just like a evangelical Christian who is diehard giving all their money to Pat Robinson.
To me, there's no difference between somebody strapping a bomb to themselves or drinking the Kool-Aid or being in a sex cult or a death cult. All religion is a cult.
Well, hey, Jenny, I don't mean to interrupt you, but that person, that the killer that killed the lady in California because she had the pride flag, he was a fundamentalist Christian who believed that the pride flag was going against God's wishes, and they're finding all this stuff out that he was posting. So he was a perfect example of what we're talking about, a fundamentalist Christian that is just not all there, No,
well, I mean, it's an interesting subject that I already knew the answer to.
Yeah.
Because when you live in a place that is dominated by conservative fundamentalists, which I did, I lived in an area that was like that for 10 years.
Yeah.
Branson, Missouri. It's all controlled by right-wing religious nut jobs like Jim Baker and stuff like that. And you see how poor, dumb white people that have some kind of trauma.
Yeah.
It's no accident that a lot of these ministries attach themselves to trauma, whether it is foster care, whether it is church camps for kids, whether it is addictions.
That's a good point. Yeah. So that's a good point.
There's a reason why they market their services to very specific communities, and the church has understood this for a long time. They want the tired and poor, and they want the disenfranchised, because they know that trauma, that brain trauma, whether it came from abuse or whatever, or drugs or whatever, make them the most susceptible for the craziest and zaniest, just full of shit, not common sense religious the practices where they go, hey, if you're going to join this church, you got to give us 2 years of tax returns, and we got to know what you're making so that we can debit your account. And people actually fucking sign up for that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Mormon Church, I mean, they're a $1 trillion company, one of the wealthiest companies in the world, the Mormon Church. I mean, they're insanely wealthy. Catholic Church, same way. They have but if you listen to their doctrine, you just remove the name of the church and you just listen to their doctrine, you realize they're batshit fucking crazy if you have any sense. But if you're the downtrodden, and when the church that's recruiting you is reaching their hand down to you, they only give you the message of hope before they get you sold, kind of like an MLM. You're going to become a millionaire just by recruiting 5-year friends. Why pyramid schemes work so good amongst church people. It's because they sell a false hope. Then they get their hooks in you, And because you're so desperate to climb on anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when you're drowning, everything sounds good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
If you're hungry and living on the streets or going through a hard time in life,
going through a divorce, going through, lost your job.
That's why you see a lot of people in like crisis as adults, these born agains. Sure. Most of the born agains, spouse cheated on them, sure. blah, blah, blah. But they went through something. There's a trauma underlying there. You can't talk like Matt Walsh does and not realize he's a pretty fucked up dude.
Yeah. Hey, listen.
And so, living amongst that kind of a population where they're the dominant voice, you really get to understand what conservatives are about. When I tell people I really understand conservatives, I really understand.
It's because you lived in that. Yeah. Yeah.
I lived in an area that was immersed. It was 98% of the population either went along, like myself, that just kept our head down and just survived it. Kind of like going through a hurricane. You just survive it. You hunker down and you just let the storm pass.
You know what, Jenny? That's interesting. Yeah, Jenny, it's interesting you say that. We're up against our first break, but interesting you say that because that's exactly kind of how I feel about when I left Texas. Is when you're actually in the craziness, you just kind of just put up with it, you tolerate, you get along, and like you said, you're just trying to survive it. It's not until you get out and you look in, you go, oh man, that's a crazy ass state. So, don't you agree? I mean, because you were there, and now that you're out and you're looking in, because, you lived in Amarillo and you lived all around. When we were in that Bible Belt, Texas, Southern Baptist, I grew up with a bunch of Southern Baptists, and you're like, you have to get out of it before you can look in and go, these are some crazy ass people.
Well, I always say two sayings, and they're stolen from other people, but it's like when you're in combat or you're in a firefight. In the middle of a firefight, you don't think about how dangerous it is. You're just reloading. You're sighting, the enemy. You're doing what you can step by step to keep yourself and your fellow soldiers alive. With the mission objective ahead, unless you're the one being attacked and you're trying to repel the enemy. But no matter what, your survival is the only thing. So you keep your head down, you keep yourself safe, you're moving and grooving, and you're doing the fundamentals to survive. And that's it. You're in full crisis. The other thing is, like from the movie Finding Nemo, and Dory just says, when they were trying to find it and she has all these memory problems and all this, you keep on swimming, keep on swimming, and you just realize I'm just going to swim because the current's going to tear me apart if I don't. And when you're fighting, in a losing cause like a massive current, you sometimes just have to say, I just got to keep swimming with the current. And eventually I'll be able to stop. Eventually I'll get out of this massive current. But for now, I'm in the current. And when you're in a dystopian state like Texas or Missouri or Florida or all these fundamentalist dominant states, where these religious conservative cults, fascist cults have taken over, as a non-fascist and anti-fascist, you just survive. Because if you say too much, you really can get in danger. It's really
exactly.
Violence is one of their favorite tools.
Well, hey, listen, Jen. Let's take our first break, and we're going to come back. We'll be talking about that, and we'll go into our topic a little bit more and talk about what you and I were talking about before we started taping the show. So we will be right back on Coffee and Pan Dulce right after this.
Hey, y'all, thanks for watching, and support our local black and brown businesses, including our sponsor, Manolo Bakery. That has some fabulous pastries, food, king steaks, all kinds of specialty cakes, swallowing, and much, much more. Some of the best food we eat in Charlotte, North Carolina. Again, Manolo's Bakery, right here in East Charlotte. Thanks for watching. Hey, y'all, thanks for watching the Florida shows. They've been wildly successful. Obviously, it's a topic that you guys have enjoyed and wanted to know more of. And we like talking about the dumpster fire. It used to be the state of Florida, and we'll probably talk about it some more this summer. Thanks for watching, y'all.
Bye, y'all. Thanks for watching. Hey, everyone. This is Christian Cano with the Coffee Pan Dulce Show. I want to thank everyone who watched our wonderful summer shows. We had incredible viewership and incredible listenership numbers. And we also want to let you know that our fall schedule is out. We have some great shows coming in September, October, and November. So please stay with us all fall and watch our fall shows on Coffee Pan Dulce. I'll dance out. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for watching our Coffee Pan Dulce show every week. Don't forget, you can watch us visually on our video podcast platforms on Facebook and YouTube, but you can also listen to us on your favorite audio podcast platforms like Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and all of the other ones that your favorite, whatever your favorite is. Once again, thank you for watching us on Coffee Pan Dulce. We'll dance out. Well, welcome back, everyone, and thank you, Jenny. And so, interesting, the three topics, the current events, I agree, they kind of are important because of what we're going to be talking about. So there was this, the Washington Post, and not just the Washington Post, but a lot of papers, especially in Florida and around Wisconsin. I've been reading the papers online. They've been really doing in-depth stories on who's Moms for Liberty. Who are they? What are they doing? Because they try to clean up their image to look like more suburban, educated moms who are concerned about parental rights. Mm-hmm. Because they don't want you to remember they're really just anti-vaxxers and anti-mask people during the pandemic. That's really how they started in Florida. They were just anti-vaxxers and anti-mask. So they actually, when they have their convention, they had this convention in Philadelphia, they had classes on how your hair should be, how to talk to the press, how don't be loud anymore at the at the school board meetings, be more subtle, and so they come across more palatable. But the press is doing a lot of in-depth stories, and they're realizing they're actually going off the exact same playbook as people did in the 1920s. They were called the Daughters of American Revolution. And they were a group of women, white women, who were against public schools because they felt like they were not teaching white education. And so they started a group. In the 1960s, there was another group that started very similar to this group. So they were showing how this group is not new. They're just using the same playbook of other groups because people like moms. When you say the word moms, your automatic extension, well, these must be caring individuals. But this group is very unique. And what's interesting is, the best article to read if you really want to talk about Moms for Liberty is not only read the Washington Post stories, but also there's an online newspaper called Slate. They did a very in-depth story on the Moms for Liberty about a week ago when you watched this, a day ago when we're taping this. And they talk about how the downfall of Moms for Liberty is going to be that, just like the other groups, they don't know how to stop. The fact that it started with anti-masks, then it became anti-vaccines, then it became we need our kids to return to school, and then it started going to book banning, and then critical race theory. These type of individuals are not disciplined. And as a result of that, what happens is they don't know how to stop, almost like Proud Boys. They don't know how to stop. They're not disciplined. And so they talk about the movement of Moms for Liberty. What will happen is they will, the reason I wanted to talk about this, because it was very similar to what Jenny said about 4 years ago about the Republican Party. The people who are going to take down the Republican Party are Republicans. The people who are going to take down Moms for Liberty are going to be Moms for Liberty people who get mad at each other and start infighting, because some of them want to be mainstream and want to be considered like, very similar to what you and I know, Moms Demand Action or Moms Against Drunk Driving. They want to be mainstream like them. but their base of their people are so extreme that they can't do it. And so it's a very interesting article. I thought it was very, very interesting because we really need to take a look at these Moms for Liberty, especially here in North Carolina, which I assume is very similar to other, big blue kind of cities. They're trying to come across as. Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Let's go ahead and stop it there because here's the thing. The majority of people never follow these kind of crazy ass movements.
Yes.
The same way with evangelicals, the same way with the Puritans, the same way with all. This is all just an offshoot of Puritan conservative extremist right-wing politics. You can change the name. Like you can start calling bullshit flowers and petunias.
Yep.
But bullshit by a different name is still bullshit.
Sure.
Okay. So Moms for Liberty has nothing to do with anti-vax, anti-COVID, anti-anything. It's a movement intended to privatize public schools.
Okay.
And give right-wing extremists more control of our society. Pure and simple. Once you take over public schools and you privatize public schools.
Yeah.
And you just dismantle the public education system as we know it. You can block access on who gets education, who doesn't. And it is the perfect way for them to make extreme amounts of money and get extreme power over our society, and also build back a caste system that we had before. It is, you got to remember, they're always, people like this, they're never formed, they probably don't exist because there's some kind of moral imperative to put these fucking nut jobs into any kind of position to power.
Yeah.
The reason why they fold and the reason why Nazism and fascism folds is it doesn't fold, it just reinvents itself. It's like dinosaurs still exist. They're just called birds now. They just evolved into being birds.
Yeah.
But dinosaurs never went away. That's a fallacy. It's just like saying mammals went away when we evolved into humans.
Sure.
We're mammals too. We're just a higher evolution of the little squirrely little looking mouses that existed during the time of the dinosaurs. These movements go from the American Puritan movement when England sent them over here, and this group has always existed. They were the pro-slavery group, the pro-states' rights group. They grab onto an argument that they think will make a point. Just like when you argue with a libertarian, they grab onto a point that isn't really the point. It's not really part of their agenda, but it extracts you of the fact that they're constantly trying to control us with fashion. And they're trying to figure out how to angle an argument to make giving up access to something sounds rational. Like giving up access to public education sounds reasonable. And these groups, like Moms for Liberty, destroy the infrastructure of the public school system. That's why they're going after school boards right now and trying to win school board seats. This is why they're trying to sound calmer, is they're trying to, first they were disrupting school board meetings and now they're trying to control them by beating the school board themselves. And then when they get in there, they're going to make so many intrusive changes and rip apart the fabric of why we have public education. Is that the next line will be from these overarching alt-right movement that we've been fighting against to form this country, is the extremists want to not only make money, power and money go hand in hand. And so that's why they always try to limit the size of the electoral system, is, again, blocking access. And so we always have to keep in our mind as progressives, if we run our society, it's kind of like Hillary's overarching theme of her campaign in 2016 that just never resonated with people because it was just too cerebral, but we're better together. Democracy works when it's really used. So no matter who votes, I don't care if conservatives vote. I just want to make sure everybody gets to vote.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, at the end of the day, I kind of equate it to a dating show that I watch. Love Island.
Okay. Well, let's get to that after we take our second break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about some of the data that's coming out in Texas that I think is kind of encouraging, a little bit encouraging as so far as the policies that they're promoting aren't working, and the state to point to is Texas. So we'll be right back on Coffee Pan Dulce right after this.
Hey y'all, our fall schedule's out on Facebook, and we have a great slate of shows for September, October, and November. Hope you watch Coffee Pan Dulce in the next few months, and thanks for watching and listening up until now. We'll see you soon. Have a great week.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
Well, welcome back, everyone, and thanks, Jen. I'm sorry to interrupt you. What was you finish your thought about?
So I watched this TV show on Peacock called Love Island, and
reality.
The whole thing is it's a reality TV show.
Okay,
it's 20-somethings, maybe some of them are in their early 30s, but they're all real young, or real broy, and they all look pretty much like models, which is so weird. They can't find dates out in the real world. But anyway, reality shows and our actual reality are kind of far-fetched when you think about it. Because the whole point is you want to find your person, but part of it is almost like this democracy type thing. You want to talk to as many people on that show to find out who's going to be your connection. So you run up against, you always want to keep your options open as much as possible. Yeah. But also really get to know one single person. So because the object of the show is to win the prize money, but to be the best couple. So it's this weird balance. So democracy is the same way. You have one side of democracy that's constantly trying to control the flow of the axis, the conservatives. Yeah. And they were wanting to play small ball, and progressives are always trying to push the idea that you should get to know everybody and let everybody participate. Because at the end of the day, just like on the Love Island, you don't want to leave any stone unturned.
Sure.
You don't want to ignore any part of the population, because of the diversity of our population is what makes us a great country. And then participating in democracy gives us a better slate of candidates, gives us a better slate of participation. And some of our best ideas come from some of our most hidden sectors of our society. And so letting everybody buy in brings more ideas to the table. That's the whole idea of democracy.
Sure.
Which the conservative movement, from the Puritans on, never wanted that. That's why they drown witches. That's why they don't want gay people around. They don't want black people to have a voice. It's because different viewpoints. Usually when you hear something idiotic like a book ban, they're going to be saying, "What you talking about, Willis? What kind of cock and bull story are you telling me to justify book bans?" And just like in the 1930s and 40s in Germany, when they were burning books and going, "We need breathing room," and you get the picture that when a group stands up above everybody else, and says, "I'm better than you. I know more than you." That is a failure of democracy. Yeah. March for Liberty proves why our democracy is failing. And we have to resuscitate our democracy. You have a thriving arena of ideas. You won't have groups for Moms for Liberty very long. Yeah. But the fact that they can survive in an ecosystem, because we got a lot of dumb fucking people willing to listen to anything. And there is our problem.
Well, I agree with what you're saying, and here's a little bit of good news, and I'm gonna see what you have to say about this. There's some new reporting coming out of the state of Texas. You and I are from the state of Texas, and actually Texas is our second biggest demographic who watches and follows this show, second to California. And the news that's coming out of Texas is, as we know, Texas has been run by conservative Bible bigots, combination of Tea Party kind of people over the last since 20 years at least, or maybe even longer. It's been a while. Yes, they have been pushing school choice. They've been pushing all charter schools, vouchers. They've been pushing things for a long time in a lot of areas of Texas. The reporting that's coming out is their math and reading scores are still going down. So the reason this is important, Jenny, is because, let's say, for an example, here in North Carolina, we have some people running for school board here in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg County area that are pushed. Their whole argument and their whole campaign is based upon schools in Charlotte, reading and math scores are going down. Because when you tell someone reading and math scores are going down, their first instinct is to go, "Oh, well, that's we need to bring those up." That's your instinct, right? And they know that low information people, especially low information parents, their first instinct is to go, "Well, we need to address that." That's why Moms for Liberty's whole argument is we need parental rights. Why? Because schools' reading and math scores are going down. What we need to start asking these individuals is, okay, tell me where your strategy is working. So this is what you want to ban books, you want to do vouchers, you want to do charter schools. Tell me where that is actually working, where it is actually increased. The reason I'm saying that, Jenny, is because there is nowhere in the country that I know of where that banning books, doing vouchers, has actually increased public school reading and math scores. It has never worked. And so when these individuals are spouting this argument, especially when they're running for office, as voters, we need to say to them, and I'm saying this because you brought up the libertarian thing. That was my biggest argument with libertarians. And I have libertarian friends, and we've had a former co-host like their ideas. But why I always ask is, tell me where that actually has worked anywhere in the world. Nowhere. Yeah. And so
because it never works, is because exactly when you take a basic public utility, which public education and access, we always need to use the word access.
Sure, exactly.
When you're faced with a conservative movement, which that's what the libertarian movement is it was invented by the Koch brothers.
Mm-hmm.
One of the Koch brothers ran for the vice presidency of the United States under the libertarian deal. They started this. The Libertarian Party is nothing more than the junkyard dog of politics. It's just
I call them the you're not the boss of me party.
Yeah, same difference.
Exactly.
Is you can't tell the junkyard dog what to do. And I won't wear that mask because you know I'm not in the closet enough. And until you are, until you need to go protest the gay bar. And then also, one of them are wearing a mask because they don't recognize from their Grindr profile.
That's right.
The fundamental thing that we get lost as progressives in is we worry about the narrative that they're saying they're doing this in.
Yeah.
And when I hear somebody try to confuse the argument by using parental rights, I'm going, what rights do parents not have?
Exactly. Yeah.
What does that have to do with little Johnny's math score?
Exactly.
How are you correlating? Which they're not. They don't ever make the case for it. They just throw it out there.
Yeah.
And what people get lost in the confusion is, and this is a uniquely progressive problem. Yeah. Is that we try to argue sense with people that don't have a lick of fucking sense. Okay. And they're mouth-breathing idiots. These Moms for Liberty are the dumbest fucking human beings that you've ever seen.
But they do pretty hair. But they're getting pretty haircuts now.
Yeah. And again, you're dressing up bullshit and calling it a petunia. And they're still feeding you the shit sandwich. Yeah. Because the whole point is just like they've done with the energy sector in Texas. They're trying to privatize and profitize the public school system the same way Texas did such a great job with their energy. The state where you can't, that's hot as fuck right now. It's like at 400 degrees Celsius, hotter than the fucking sun, but you can't run your AC below 80 degrees. That sure is liberty. It sure does feel good that you can't use your power grid. You know, the power grid that you're paying more for than any other state in the union.
Yeah.
Privatizing was a really good idea until it's not. And public education's that same fucking way. They're trying to disrupt with these distraction arguments of parental rights. Nobody stops and says parents have all the rights they need.
Yeah.
What does parents' rights have to do with test scores?
Exactly.
And the test scores is because the kids are testing well.
Exactly. Not because the parents don't have the rights.
But nobody's asking the question. Well,
that's a good point, Jenny, because...
hang on a second. Let me finish this one thought. I don't want to lose this in the comedy. Nobody's asking if the tests are even fucking accurate.
Yeah.
I know really smart people that make really good regular grades that are bad test takers.
Yeah.
And I used to be married to one person. They got 2 college degrees. They had a master's in education and a bachelor's. Made really good grades. Terrible test taker. I made mediocre grades.
Yeah.
Did not get a college degree. Scored off the charts on the fucking SAT, the CAT, every fucking standardized test. I was testing on the high school level in the 3rd grade. Because I know how to circle C every time.
Yeah.
Multiple guess tests, testing. I don't fold under pressure, so I'm really good in test situations. Unlike some people. Standardized testing is the death of public education because you're trying to measure things that are unmeasurable.
Yes, I agree.
Level of education, some of the stuff of education, and the point of public education is not facts and figures and memorization. It is to improve and take kids from pre-K to the 12th grade and get them ready for real life.
Yeah.
Because the majority of us are not going to become doctors and lawyers.
Yeah.
School should not be treated as some kind of memorization camp where we memorize the Pythagorean theorem.
Sure.
Who uses the fucking Pythagorean theorem in their life as an adult outside of the science community?
Yeah.
And engineers.
Well,
nobody fucking does. And the whole point is that little Johnny can't figure out the Pythagorean theorem and dissect a fucking sentence, even though we had Chat GPT now and the Google machine, that nobody uses what you learned in school. The whole point of expanding people's minds is that so they can evolve and grow and have some sort of level of common sense and critical thinking. So you just beat that in kids' heads for 13 years. That's the point of the education system, is to give many people a fighting chance to go on with their adult careers, whether it's more education, whether it's, going to mechanics school, whether it's going in the military, is to raise and open minds. Minds are just like parachutes. They work better when they open. And that's the whole point of school, is not to get good scores on testing and all that. So the public education system itself, just like voting, access to voting, the distraction arguments around why you would restrict voting in a democracy from the conservatives is just as dumb as book bans. The fact that you can sell this to anybody tells you how bad we've done on beating common sense. And the moment somebody says there's a good reason to restrict voting, you run the fuck away from that idiot.
Yeah.
Just like a church, when they come to you and say, let me have access to your bank account, we will withdraw the appropriate amount. Well, just like with the testing, hey, is the testing even needed?
Sure.
The question needs, why do you need unfettered access to my bank account?
Well, that's an excellent point, and we're actually up against our last break, and I just want to let people know that if you like what you're hearing from Jenny, she does have a show that comes on 30 minutes after this. It's called Two Queers in a Truck. It drops every Wednesday at 11:30, and this last break actually talks about her show. We'll be right back on Coffee and Pan Dulce.
Up next is Two Queers in a Truck with Jenny and Christian. And hope you guys tune in. We'll see you in about 15 to 20 minutes. Thank you. Bye.
Well, welcome back, everyone. And don't forget to join Jenny on her show every Wednesday at 11:30. It's called Two Queers in a Truck. So, Jenny, there's a show called Veep. It's got Julia Dreyfus, whatever her name is, used to be on Seinfeld and all the other shows. And it's been out for a while on HBO, and I've never, ever watched it. Well, this last week I did binge watching it, and it is really, really funny. It's on HBO Max, or they call it Max now, or whatever. There's a scene that it's on 7 seasons. On the 5th season, she runs for president. She's VP. You got to watch it. They're talking about strategy on how, and there's actually a episode that talks about how are we going to win black voters? How are we going to win white voters? How are we going to win poor, uneducated voters? And when they talk about I think they're in South Carolina. She said, how are we going to win the educated white voters in South Carolina? And her strategist says, well, this is South Carolina. It's a very, very small part. She goes, oh, okay, you're right. Well, how are we going to win the poor white people in South Carolina? And I wrote it down because I wanted to say it on this show. The strategist said, well, we need to use dog whistles. And she goes, whistles? Like in whistles? He goes, no, dog whistles. They're things that you do that get them excited. And he goes, one of the things that they've been using around the country for poor white people is talk about charter schools, talk about vouchers, talk about school choice, talk about parental rights. This is actually in an episode in Veep. And the strategist said, these are dog whistles for poor white people, because when they hear these words, they think, oh, I can become like the rich white people. And so I thought it was funny when you're saying that, Jenny, because even in that show, they highlight what we all know, dog whistles for poor white people, and even lesser educated Hispanic people, lesser educated black and brown people. When you say charter school, vouchers, middle-class white people, they're like, I send my kid wherever they're going to go, regardless of what you tell me what to do. It's the poor people, or the less educated people, that think, well, now I have a voucher, my kid can go to Myers Park, or my kid can go to Duke. They think that by having that voucher or sending their kid to a charter school, that suddenly their child is going to have the same privileges and the same rights as the rich white kid. And it's not the case. Yeah. They would have the same access with a good public school. But they think, because they've been told parental choice, which is what Moms for Liberty is trying to sell to a lot of people, parental choice is going to give your kid the same privilege that some of these kids in Myers Park have. And that's not how it works. Nowhere in the country has it worked. And as we talked about before, in Texas, they're actually showing that it's not working. It's actually lowering the scores of people. So I wanted to throw that in there because I thought it was funny that they said that on the show Veep.
Because people have to understand, if private schools were the way to go, we would have never developed the public school system.
Exactly.
Because all we used to have was private schools.
Mm-hmm.
Education was a privilege, and access to education past probably about the 3rd grade was unusual in the United States. It wasn't that long ago. Yeah. Many people, like our grandparents' generation, or many people in the United States, the majority of the working class did not have a high school diploma. That used to be a big deal if you graduated high school. Forget college. That maybe was 1% of the population. It was very rare people got a college degree, just 2 or 3 generations older than me. Especially around the turn of the 20th century. Public education's a relatively new concept in the United States. Yeah. It's not been that long. We didn't have a public education system and before the 20th century, not a universal one. Yeah. Public education stopped at a very early age, if at all.
That's yeah.
But here's the thing: to be a large population, industrialized nation in the 21st century, to claw back access, and I'm gonna keep repeating access till people get it.
Yeah.
What would be the motivation to claw back a really good system we have? There's nothing wrong with our public education system.
Sure.
That's it. There's nothing wrong. It's just like blaming our medical system for access. We don't have anything wrong with our very sophisticated public health systems. We have really good hospitals and technology in this country.
Yeah.
The real argument is who the money flows through and how it's controlled. Public financing of healthcare and public financing of education. One side wants to control where that money goes and who it flows through.
Yeah.
One side wants to make sure we get the best value. And anytime that you say the moment they try to segregate anything that has to do with public life, voting, healthcare, education, human access to certain kind of healthcare. You got a movement with the Republicans right now where 20 states, 40% of the states have banned healthcare for trans kids. That non-trans kids can access without even a psychologist note. There's no vetting. If a 14-year-old girl wants to get breast augmentation, all she has to do is get parental consent and she can get a boob job.
Sure.
A 14-year-old trans girl has to go through a certain amount of this, a certain amount of that. There is a ton of hoops thrown through that the most. And here's a very, very important point. Is you got 14, 15, and 16-year-old pageant girls going out and getting boob jobs, those jobs, getting surgeries that a little trans girl wants to get as well. And I said, well, that's a life-altering decision. We know you've been in therapy for 5 years and we know for sure that you're a girl. Yeah. But we still think you need to wait.
I see what you mean. What you're saying,
again, to clarify the point, is you're blocking access to certain populations. The reason why desegregating public schools was so important is to make sure that the conservatives didn't just defund the black schools.
Sure.
In the black areas of town. And that by desegregating those schools and putting all the racially diverse kids in the same schools, you couldn't just redline the 2 black schools in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and the 8 white dominant schools get all of the funding and brand new stadiums and the brand new foosball uniforms and all that. And again, you see that with voting.
Yeah.
The only way you can gerrymander a population is because it's a low turnout population. If Charlotte, North Carolina, in an important city race, if only 12% of the people vote, easy. There is no reason there should be a Republican on the city council.
Sure.
We're 80% Democrat in this setting.
Yeah.
Everywhere. There is no precinct that has a Republican majority.
Sure. Hey, Jenny, I got to. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
But how you limit it is you limit the size of the access. We're always going to fight the front line of every civil rights, every human rights, every major deal. The front line of that war is always going to be the access. And always remember that. We sometimes argue the wrong point. We can get into the semantics, parents' rights, and aliens landing on the White House lawn. Eisenhower having a meeting and the Greys taking over. We can argue all these crazy little fanciful, Stephen libertarian arguments. At the end of the day, the war is fought and won, at the access points.
Sure.
The moment segregation happened, they moved on to a different way of segregating people. The moment gay people were allowed to marry, they attack another section of the LGBT community. You see my point? Their argument evolves, and ours, we're still back there going, oh yeah, we won that battle. Let's pat ourselves on the back. White women got to vote with the 19th Amendment or whatever it was 100 years ago, and we're still patting ourselves on the back on that. But no big deal. Black women can't vote, for example, or indigenous women can't. We'll worry about that later. And again, access point. And when you try to destroy a huge system like the public education, there is you have to ask yourself, why all of a sudden are books that scary? Why are we having culture wars? Why did a school district in Houston is shutting down all the high school libraries and turning them into detention centers? Why is the state of Missouri defunding their entire public library system? Why are conservatives arguing these points? And just like with what we were going to talk about on election stuff, the battle's not in registering people to vote. Why should we be registered? The real question is, why with the Google machine, AI, and self-driving fucking cars, not so successful all the time, but they still exist. And these fucking supercomputers that we carry around called smartphones, why in the fuck are we still registering people?
We are. I agree with you. When you talk about register to vote, I've always felt that as a Democrat, the registering to vote aspect of our get out the vote campaigns that we do, I've always felt that is a wasted effort. And the reason is because we should focus less on registering people to vote and focus more on getting people to vote who are registered. And now I understand the argument. We want to expand the party. We want to continue to do that. But at the end of the day, unless we're getting 60 to 70% of our own voters who are registered to vote, that's where the focus should be on. Because it doesn't make a difference if we keep trying to register all these people when only 40%, 30% are voting. We gotta, and that's what the Republicans, they don't even worry about registering people to vote. All they care about is getting the people to vote who are registered to vote that they want to vote. And so I do
fight two battles in that subject. Is making sure they keep legislation alive. And reinforcing the ability for the state to suppress the vote, so that their small minority can win elections when they shouldn't be winning. And they've done a brilliant job. And to put it in football analogies, they've played phenomenal defense. They're like Chicago Bears 1986 or 87 or 85 in the Super Bowl. They won not because Jim McMahon was he was a terrible quarterback. They scored enough points to win games, but their defense won the games. They won games 13-0 and they won games by soccer scores that year. They barely scored enough points in most games to win games, but their defense was phenomenal. And the Republican Party has learned how to play defense and block things, whether it is jerry-rigging Supreme Court systems in state and federal level, whether it is gerrymandering, and most of all, a lot of this stuff wouldn't work as if they didn't suppress the vote. And voter suppression is the number one thing, because if people didn't see that barrier and didn't get so disenfranchised with voting, if they saw their fellow neighbors, the peer pressure of everybody voting, you would see 100% participation. The biggest issue is that a lot of, and I'm talking about ranking, I'm not talking about policy wonks like you and I. We live and die. This is a big part of our, this is our hobby as much as anything. We sit here, the whole reason this show got started was because of your love of politics and community. And that's why probably a lot of people listen to this show is to hear talk about the issues of the day, which are all tied to politics. The point is, that's not the majority of the population. The majority of the population keeps their head down and keeps on swimming.
Exactly.
And when you see a place like Charlotte, North Carolina, that's insanely progressive, insanely techy, high-tech, fintech, very high levels of education of people that live here, the norm, and it's a very progressive city. When you look at our politics, we just had a unanimous vote to protect pregnant people, people with natural hairstyle, veterans, and the entire LGBT community. We even had the 2 Republicans sign off on it, and the Republican Party endorsed the plan to protect queers in the city 2 years ago. 9-0 vote. Perfect. Unanimous. Completely, all of them completely signed off on it, completely agreed to it, and a public vote, despite crazy preachers showing up, tells you that this is an overwhelmingly progressive city. And the conservative candidates should not be able to win at all. They should be completely locked down. Same conservative candidates in the next breath is talking about parental rights and book bans. And mad about the January 6th prosecutions. Those nut jobs, when they say that kind of kooky stuff, and they do say that in different subtle ways, should have been voted out in the next election.
Yeah, I agree.
If voter participation that's 80% progressive, maybe even 90% progressive, if people were participating at the levels they should be, that shouldn't happen in this ecosystem at all. Never even should be a thought. We should say, what?
Okay. Listen.
And so we have to change that narrative, and we got to unblock the access points of everything.
Okay.
But we got to ask questions, and we got to define the terms of the battle. We got to quit letting them play defense.
All right. Well, listen, we've gone over, but I do want to jump into real quickly, and we'll do this really, really short, to Pendejo Chronicles. And this is the Pendejo Chronicles. All right, so here we go. Pendejo Chronicles is DeSantis. When you watch this, it'll be a week has passed. There was a mass shooting in Florida, and 3 African-American Black Americans were murdered by a white supremacist. The white supremacist was openly white supremacist, had Nazi symbols and all kinds of stuff. Well, DeSantis went back to Florida and attended a kind of a vigil, and he was booed by some of the local residents of that area. And the reason he was booed was because they're saying, you're the reason why hate exists you're part of the reason why hate exists in Florida by doing the anti-woke, anti-CRT, by spreading this dog whistle stuff. And riling these young, uneducated, kind of delusional white kids up. Those dog whistles come from people like you. So to me, he is the pendejo of the week again, because it is so disingenuous for him to rile people up and then go in and say, oh, this is terrible. So I don't know if you have any comments on that situation.
Well, he's exactly pointing what I just talked about.
Yeah.
No fucking reason DeSantis should be governor of Florida. No fucking reason a chuckle fuck like that's been a chuckle fuck all the time, that's carry watered for Trump, that is spouted off these fascists, not Death DeSantis, that had the highest COVID death rate in the United States, proven bar none. This isn't medical advice, by the way, little disclosure for the YouTube Nazis. It's a proven fact. You can just go to the deal.
That's right.
and per county and per capita, there was no state that did COVID death better than Florida.
Yeah.
The moment that happened, the next election cycle, he should have been overwhelmingly voted out like Trump got voted out. And he didn't. He actually did better. That tells you how much the vote is suppressed there. And if you want to continue to have public officials do book bans and Black history bans, and you want to lose all your public libraries, and you want to raise a generation of stupid little fuckers because we take away every access point to education so that they fall for Nazi tactics. You can't whip up a small minority of idiots to go out shooting people because of the color of their skin, the pigment of their skin, unless you are a dumb idiot. You got to be stupid. This isn't just brain damage. You got to be stupid to do that, because doing a mass shooting is going to end one of two ways for you. You're either going to get shot by the police, or they're going to throw you under the prison. And I prefer the first one, which is I hope that they don't even waste money on trial. I'm all for shooting a mass shooter, right between the eyes. And you don't have people like that if you've got minority candidates like DeSantis, that most people in a room, no matter who you're talking about, would never agree with an idiot. Standing up there going, book bans are a good idea.
Yeah.
Because we have one gay book in the library, let's just get rid of the library. So, you know, what one boy in the story holds another boy's hand, and all of a sudden we should just throw it. Idiotic ideas like that even taking hold in a 21st century America that also is creating amazing AI technology and creating great economic wealth with technology, tells you we are not winning the war. And they have convinced people that we don't like learning in this country, and that learning's bad and learning is woke. And so that you, on the converse hand, in that same conversation, they're telling you wokeism is protecting Black lives. Wokeism is giving new arrivals a fighting chance in this world, and protecting seniors and protecting Social Security and protecting access to health care and not bankrupting families. When you get that vicious against your neighbor, you'll fall for anything, because you got to be dumb as fuck to think that it's okay to go into a grocery store or whatever and gun down 3 Black people.
Well, listen, we've gone over and we've run out of time. I do want to remind people that the fall schedule is out for the month of September. For an example, actually, our next show, we will actually have Rafael Preto has committed to come on our show next for our next show. We'll be talking about how the Latinx Hispanic community is now the #1 demographic for NFL football. A great topic, I'm sure, that Jenny wants to talk about. So interestingly, the NFL now, the majority of fans, the #1 demographic is not white women, not white men, not actually Black. It's now Hispanic or Latinx, and which is why they're pushing. And then we'll also have on September the 16th. It may just be you and I, because I've invited some people, but I have not got a confirmation yet. On December the 16th, we will drop a show that's called our annual 16 Grito Contest 2023. We'll see who wins that one. It's also right around Jenny's birthday, so we'll also be celebrating her birthday as well. And then on the 20th, we hope to have some Mecklenburg County here in Charlotte, North Carolina area, some Mecklenburg County school board candidates on. We hope to have them because our topic, I've actually sent out invite to them. We'll see who attends. The topic will be public schools are now a majority Latinx. All around the country, in your biggest school districts, the majority demographic is Latinx Hispanic, even more than Black and African American. And knowing that, we want to know why there are still some parents who think they still know best for the Latinx Hispanic community. We'll hear what some of these school candidates have to say. And then our last show of the month, because we get 5 in this week, or this month, we'll have Dr. B back, Dr. Bumfuck. He'll be back for our annual Is Medicare Advantage a Scam show. So those are the ones in September. And of course, we have October, November coming up as well. So we're going to go around the Brady Bunch screen. Thank you, Jenny, for helping us carry the show. Barb, hopefully we'll see Barb back next week, just in time for the NFL show. We'll see I know she's not big in football, so I'm sure that'll be y'all's favorite show. So where are you going to be the week that this show drops, Jen?
So I guess that week, I'll be doing my work, and we're introducing a new product. We're actually doing it kind of as something fun, but it'll also help fund my company. We are going to be selling T-shirts, commemorative T-shirts for Donald J. Trump, and this is actually legit. And the sales should go live by the time this show drops.
Okay.
And there's going to be some mugshot T-shirts and some other funny sayings.
Wow, wonderful!
We're doing it to
sustain
the business, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We have a Shopify store set up and an Etsy store set up, and we're as we're taping this right now. My business partner that's also can do digital art. It's going to be a neat project. Some of them are going to look like Twitter screenshots.
Yeah,
and there's going to be some interesting ones, some subs with some funny sayings, and so that will launch next week. By the time this airs, we'll have links all around the Facebook.
Yep. Yeah.
My company, the company, you can find us on any social media platform, and our website. It's blueappliedtech.com. And I'll make sure I promote it. So if you just find that, you'll find our link, and you can buy all kinds of memorabilia and commemorating this historic occasion.
Excellent. And I will be camping, and watching football. So very, very, very exciting. All right. So listen, this has been a good show, and I do want to say one thing. All of the Moms for Liberty people who watch this show, because they'll watch it once they see this title, because they want to know what we're talking about. And especially some of the school board candidates will watch this show, which is why I labeled this lipsticks. I titled this show because there's a saying in Texas, but it's not, you probably know this saying, Jenny. You can put a lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig.
Correct.
And that is actually what you can put all the lipstick you want to on the Moms for Liberty people, but they're still bigots. And they may try to cut the hair, nice and not be as angry at school board meetings as they were before, but they're still just a bunch of uneducated, lower information bigots who are trying to kind of class up their act so they can attract attention. So, And
most of all, the moment you have people attacking our public education system for no reason, and there's absolutely none of their arguments hold water. There's nothing truthful about what they're saying. They're completely lying about it. And I'm saying lying. It's not a false narrative. It's just a lie. There's no well-but argument they have. It's all about bullshit. You got to worry about why they're trying to destroy public schools.
Good point.
Whether inside as a board of education member, or whether it is pressure, whether it's these nonsensical bullshit social reasons, if they try to use trans kids as an excuse, whatever. Let me tell you something. If it sounds crazy, it probably is. I mean, the moment you start normalizing book bans and mass shootings, and like Ted Cruz saying, if the school doors in the Uvalde school
were locked,
the mass shooting wouldn't happen. I said, yeah, okay. And if a frog had wings, it wouldn't bump its butt when it hops. You got to look at that. This is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. And just like putting all your kids' eggs in one basket and saying the kids aren't learning if they don't have good test scores, when that's not true. That's never been true. standardized tests at big hallowed institutions like Harvard don't mean anything. You don't see college graduates having to take big standardized tests to graduate.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You get all your requirements done, you get a diploma. They hand you a little degree. It says you finished these classes, you passed enough classes and took enough hours to fulfill this degree plan. Well, that's it. It's assumed that you have a competency because you were able to finish that coursework.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Their classes and they're going on to the next grade. You should assume they're literate and they understand the work at some level. And to test them to decide how you're going to fund schools and how you're going to pay teachers and all that is just another attempt to destroy the public education system. And we don't have to ask why. We know why. They're trying to just replace it with a private system. We've known this for decades. This movement's not new. But when you see a group pop up like this, that just didn't pop up by accident, by the way, pop up and say all these crazy things, you just got to realize that's not the argument.
Yeah.
You got to point out their agenda of what they're really doing, and you got to keep repeating it till people get it. And say, if you want public schools in 2030, you got to get rid of these people and not let them have a voice. Or characterize them what they are. They're fucking nut jobs. They're fucking terrorist nut jobs.
Well, I do want to thank them for watching.
Yeah. Go fuck yourself. You know, talk about a group that
because they are, Jenny. You know they're going to watch this and they want to know what we're going to say about it. So, all right. Well, hey, listen. Thank you so much, y'all. We'll see you next week in Coffee Pan Dulce. So we will dance out here.
Bye, babe.
Bye. We'll see you next week.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for watching Coffee Pan Dulce. And be safe out there, especially in the areas affected by the hurricane. And hope for the best and prepare for the worst. But have a safe week out there, and we'll see you next week. Happy September.
See you next week, y'all. Bye-bye.
Hey, this is Labor Day weekend, which means we have the return of fall and autumn holiday season. So we have a great fall lineup, and we encourage you to tune in to many of our fabulous shows, like our Say show, and many more things in October and November as well. Thanks for watching, as always, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, y'all. Hey, I'm Christian Cano. I wanted to thank you so much for watching our Coffee Pan Dulce shows. I also want to thank you so much for watching us on our video podcast, which is on Facebook and YouTube, but also for listening to us on our audio podcast shows on your favorite audio podcast platform, like Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podcast Chaser, and many more. Once again, thanks for watching us and listening to us on Coffee Pan Dulce. Bye, y'all.
Next up, thanks for watching Coffee Pan Dulce. Next up is Two Queers in a Truck. Stay tuned.
Coffee and Pan Dulce. How's that? Coffee and Pan Dulce.
Sounds
You
great.
sounded like a telenova. I mean,
I'm trying this. All I have to say is go. Yes.
as a non-Spanish speaker.
All right, so let's act like we. Here we go. All right. Okay, so we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit about Moms for Liberty, and then let's go into what you were talking about. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So here we go. Hey, Jim, what I'm going to do is we'll come back and I'll let you finish your thought, and then I'll talk about the report that just came out last week that math and reading scores in Texas continue to decline, even with the school choice option that has been pushed there for the last decade. So, okay, so here we go. I was gonna say something really funny about the Veep show. I'll come back and I'll say it real quickly.
Okay.
Coffee and Pan Dulce. How's that? Coffee and Pan Dulce.